In just a moment, the family of of Mrs. Faye Rochelle Shelly Schwartz will be entering the chapel. But I would just like to make sure, just a gentle reminder, if you do have a cell phone with you, folks, to please place it in the silent mode or turn it off completely. That would be appreciated. Officiating at the service will be Rabbi Louis Lazovsky.
Adam ma'adam b'tedoeu, ben enosh v'atchashveu. Adam lehevel dama yamav kitzel over. Zram tam shene yu baboker kechatzer yahalof. Baboker yatzitz v'chalaf la'erev yimolel v'yavesh. Yimei shmelsenu bohem shivim shana, v'im bigvuro shmonim shana, v'rabam abel v'aven, ki gaz chish v'neufa. Limnos yamenu kein hodav v'navila vav chachma. Shmor tamore yashor ki acharis lish shalom. Ach Elohim yifden afshim yad sheol ki kacheni sela. V'od Adonai nefesh avadav lo ye'eshmu kol achosim bo. Yashov he'afor al ha'oretz kishehaya v'ruach tashuv el Elohim asher nisana. Lord, what is man that thou dost regard him, or the son of man that thou dost think of him? Man is like a breath. His days are like a passing shadow. Thou dost sweep men away. They are like a dream, like grass which is renewed in the morning. In the morning it flourishes and is renewed. In the evening it fades and withers. The years of our life are 70, or even by reason of strength 80. Yet their pride is but toil and trouble. They are soon gone, and we fly away. So teach us to number our days, that we may get a heart of wisdom. Mark the blameless man, behold the upright, for there is posterity for the man of peace. Surely God will ransom my soul from the grave, for he will receive me indeed. The Lord redeems the souls of his servants, and none of those who take refuge in him will be condemned. The dust returns to earth as it was, but the spirit returns to God who gave it. Michtamlu David Shemerni El ki chasisi vach, Amart Ladnoi Adnoi Ata Tovasi Balalecha, Doshim Asheborets Hema Vadire Kol Chefzi Bam, Yibru Atzvosam Achar Maharo Bal Asich Niskem Idam, Wal Esa Shmosam El Sfasai. Adonai Menos Chelki V'chosi Atatomich Gorali, Chavolim Naflu Li Ban Imem, Hafnachlas Shofra Aloi. Havareches Adonai asher yotzani aflelos yisrunich el yosoi. Shivisi Adonai lenegdi samid kimimini bal emot. Lachain samach libi v'yagel kavodi af besari yishkon lavetach. Kilo ta'azov nafshi lish'ol lo sitein chasidcha liros shochas. Tedin orach ochayim savas machosas panecha limos b'min chonetzach. Mismorlo David Adonai ro'ilo echsor, binostesha yarbitzeni al memenucho shenaleni. נפשי שובב ינחני במאג ליסדק למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגית סלמובס לא ירא כי אתה עמדי, שבטך משענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צוררוי, תשענת בשמן ראשי כוסי רוויה, אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני ליארך ימים. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou have anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The Ashush Chayil prayer, recited first in Hebrew and then in English by Mr. Schwartz. Ashush Chayil miyimtza, barachok mimnini michra, patach bo lebayla, v'shalalo yachzor, mlasu tov v'lo ra kol yimei chaya, kappa parsalayani v'yadeh shilchol eviyon, noda b'sh'arim ba'ala b'shivto im ziknei oretz, oz v'ador lavusha v'tisak liyom acharon, pia pras v'chachma v'soras chesed al shona, tzafia alichos beisa v'lechem atzlus lo sochel, kama b'nei v'yashrua ba'ala v'hala, rabot banot osochoyo v'at alita kulana. Sheker achein v'habal yofi ishayiras Adonai hitis halal, tenula mi pri yadea v'alua b'sh'arim aseh.
So I'm going to invite my dear Zaidi to come and say the Eshet Chayil in English, like he always does say for Bobby.
I said to my wife for over 60 years, she was truly a woman of valor in many ways. A good wife who can find, for she is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts her completely, and he has no lack of gain. She does good and not harm all the days of her life. She opens her hand to the poor. She reaches forth her hands to the needy. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the law of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her, saying, "Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Grace is deceitful, and beauty is vain. But a woman who reveres the Lord is to be praised. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates." Rochelle, I miss you so much.
This time we'll call on Cindy as the first of the Maspidim.
I'm just taking a look around. It really means a lot to me to see all the family and friends. Some people came from far and near, and it just means so much to see you all here. Mom, Lisa called me on last Tuesday morning, Yom HaZikaron, the Israeli Soldier Memorial Day. It was in the morning for me and some ungodly hour in the middle of the night for Lisa. She let me know that things weren't going well, that you had taken a turn for the worse, but that there was still no clear time frame. Immediately, a heavy feeling came over my whole body, which I felt the whole day. This compounded by Yom HaZikaron, which is always a heavy day for Israelis and for many Jews worldwide. The day that we commemorate all of the soldiers who fell in Israel's wars since 1948 and the innocent civilians killed in terror attacks. Mom, you were such a Zionist, and as far as I can remember, maybe I'm wrong, I don't think that in all of your numerous visits to Israel that you were ever there to commemorate Yom HaZikaron or celebrate Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel's Independence Day. You would have found the ceremonies so meaningful, and you would have loved being part of the celebrations, seeing Israeli flags, blue and white lights everywhere, all the free concerts, joining Israelis of all ages as they celebrate together. Lisa called me again in the evening, my time, just as I was getting out of my car to go participate in a ceremony that Dorron, your son-in-law, was participating in. I got out of the car, and Lisa told me that things had gotten even worse, that you weren't eating and drinking, and that it was probably a matter of days. The heavy feeling intensified, and I called Dorron out of the ceremony to let him know that I would be going home. I didn't feel like participating in the ceremony. I came home to an empty apartment and stared at my computer, knowing that I would have to start making arrangements to fly out, and I just wasn't emotionally ready to do that. Instead, I pushed myself to walk to our shul, where they were having a musical festive prayer for Yom HaAtzmaut. At the time, I wasn't sure if it was the right thing to do, but I dragged my heavy legs and walked up the stairs to the women's section. Mom, it was so beautiful. You would have loved it. Our favorite chazan was joined by another talented community member on guitar, and our friend David Fenster accompanied them on drums. Mom, you remember David. Hallel, our youngest daughter, joined me, and we sang and swayed and davened. Again, you would have loved it. I wish you could have been there with us, but I felt you were there in spirit. After the tefillah, I felt so uplifted and felt better equipped to start thinking about what was happening with you and make decisions about flights, etc. Mom, music was such an integral part of your life, and you touched the lives of so many Jewish children and others with your music. I feel it is not a coincidence that music is what gave me that strength to begin coping with the looming imminent loss that had not yet happened. Baruch Hashem, I landed here on Thursday, and Dad and I, Lisa, Aunt Eileen, and Myron and Stacy were all zoche to spend time by your bedside. We spoke to you, we sang to you. I think you heard us, but even if the physical you didn't hear us, we know that the spiritual you did. We are happy that we were able to spend some time with you on your last day in this world. Your daughter Laurie and your sister Marcia unfortunately could not be here today, but thanks to technology, they're able to be with us virtually, as are many of your loved ones, friends, and acquaintances, including your granddaughters and grandson-in-laws. Mom, I want to pay tribute to you today as I stand here in front of families and friends and community members. I mentioned your Zionism. As long as I can remember, Israel was front and center to you. From your stories about how you used to march with HaShomer HaDati for Palestine to become the state of Israel, to your reference to the establishment of the state being your bat mitzvah present, as you were born in June of 1936, and nearly 12 years later, on May 14th, 1948, Hey Iyar Tashach, Israel came into existence as a sovereign state for the Jewish people. They say that parents have Ruach HaKodesh, a spiritual ability to see the future when they name their children. You gave me the name of Yisrael Shendel, beautiful Israelite, and you would constantly tell me that you always knew that I would make Aliyah. Although you and Dad were unable to make Aliyah and move to Israel, in the end, all three of your daughters ended up there on some level. Laurie joined me in Aliyah, and Lisa made herself a home away from home in Israel. I know you were so proud of this. Although you and Dad never made Aliyah, you visited so many times that Dad, who's very good at calculations, cannot remember or count exactly how many. Your first visit was in Purim of 1974, when Israel was still in a somewhat subdued state post-Yom Kippur War. You came home with beautiful embroidered shirts for us purchased in the market in the old city of Jerusalem. I remember loving my shirt, white and blue embroidery, and I can remember wearing it on Yom Ha'atzmaut. You also brought back your photos of the children parading the streets of Kiryat Ono and of your nephews, Dov and Ari, dressed in their cowboy costumes. I loved looking at those photos. Your next visit wouldn't be until 1987, when I was on the Bnei Akiva Hachshara program, and you came for Pesach. And of course, you and Dad came in for my wedding, the births of all my children, and from 1994, with the birth of your twin granddaughters in Israel, one who's right here. You came almost every year for Pesach, and a few years later, you began coming twice a year, usually for the high holidays or Sukkot and Simchat Torah, or both. You never came empty-handed. That's an understatement. In those days, the luggage allowance for U.S. citizens to Israel was 2 suitcases per passenger with no weight limit. You schlepped baby equipment, strollers, pack-and-place, high chairs, and whatnot, clothing, toys, baby-proofing equipment, housewares, paper goods, basically everything. You joined an organization called PNAI, Parents of North American Israelis. While it was a support group for parents of children who had made Aliyah, one of your main motivating factors was that as members, you were allowed a third piece of luggage, and you would schlep even more. I don't know how you did it. Your bags were those old-style Eastpak giant duffel bags with no wheels. You loaded them somehow on your foldable luggage cart. Crazy. You were always so excited to come with all of your gifts, which you called surprises. You and Dad would come a couple of weeks before Pesach to help clean, kasher, cover, and bake. I can remember one year you made so many desserts that we had a fight over it, because I told you that you needed to stop, because I needed the oven to start cooking. In the end, we made up and had a delicious meal. When we were in South Africa, you continued to come to us for Pesach. You came 3 out of the 4 years we were there. The 3rd year, you were unable to come because you had been in a terrible car accident, hit by a car while crossing the street as a pedestrian. You were so strong-willed, Mom. The staff, it was ironically Lieberman, where she was now, the staff were unsure of how much you would be able to rehabilitate. But 1 year later, you were back on the plane to South Africa for a 6-week visit, encompassing the twins' bat mitzvah, Purim, Pesach, and a trip to Cape Town. You always had so much determination. Even more recently, on your last visit to Israel 5.5 years ago for Maayan and Ashush's wedding, you were on your feet, walking up 3 flights to my apartment on Shabbat. I had to fight with you to let me take you in a wheelchair to shul. You wanted to walk. You said it's your therapy. I somehow managed to convince you to go in the wheelchair, telling you the truth that it wasn't for you, but it was for me. I needed to get to shul on time. And even though you were perfectly fine walking, you were too slow. Our deal was that on the way home, you'd walk with Dad, and I would push an empty wheelchair. This brings me to my awe of your and Dad's relationship. It didn't matter if sometimes you argued, fought, or yelled. There was so much love and devotion between the two of you. Dad had so much patience. If you insisted on walking back from shul instead of going in the wheelchair, making a 10-minute walk into 40 or 45 minutes, he was absolutely fine with it. I have memories back into my young childhood of you and Dad holding hands, sneaking a kiss, saying I love you regularly. This continued even now during these last 10.5 months at Lieberman. When you were having a good day, or sometimes even when you weren't, you would blow a kiss to Dad, kiss him on the cheek, or even say I love you. And sometimes you would get annoyed with him for looking at his watch or making a silly comment, but the love never disappeared between you guys. You and Dad have been so devoted to one another all through your marriage. But watching Dad these past 10.5 months with his unconditional love and devotion come every day, except for Shabbos, to visit you, to feed you, bring you extra goodies that you like canned peaches, gefilte fish, Denny's chocolate chip cookies, and more. And of course, bringing you in Sure, what you call chocolate milk, to provide you with the calories and nutrients you needed. Even when Dad stopped driving a few months ago, that didn't stop him from coming by bus, Uber, rides with Lisa, Eileen, and other kind people. Mom, you were an educator for over 60 years who taught and touched the lives of thousands, if not more, students, teaching about Jewish values, heritage, and culture through music. And you taught your students the value of chesed, kindness through good deeds, by taking groups to nursing homes, including Lieberman, to sing and interact with the residents on Jewish holidays. My inspiration to become a geriatric social worker, which I worked in for nearly 12 years, was definitely inspired from joining you in your classes on these visits from a young age. Mom, you were always the hostess with the mostest, serving as a real-life model of hachnasat orchim, welcoming guests into our home and into our sukkah for Jewish holidays and also just for family get-togethers. Our Pesach Seders were always tasty and festive and full of Jewish content. While maybe as a teenager, I didn't always have an easy time appreciating you. You always gave my friends a warm welcome, and they loved coming over to our house. And a big part of it was the hachnasat orchim that you gave them. You always loved to plan a party. But when my Sweet 16 fell around the same time as Laurie's wedding, you told me very firmly and adamantly in advance, sorry, but no Sweet 16. It's too much with the wedding. I understood, and I didn't dare ask. Of course, you ended up on your own initiative throwing me a beautiful Sweet 16 around 8 days after the wedding on Memorial Day, with the theme, of course, being red, white, and blue, and you served up an incredible lox and bagel brunch. Mom, you were a dreamer and a planner. You always thought big. I remember as a kid, Jimmy Carter had publicized that he wanted to take part in a Pesach Seder. You were sure he would choose us. You spent hours and days rearranging the dining room furniture, trying to figure out where to put the Secret Service agents. You can't make these things up. And of course, your biggest dream was to sell your songs. Your songs were your fourth child. Composing songs since a young teenager, your dream was that one day they would be sung by a famous singer. I remember you going to meet Pat Boone after a concert, thinking that maybe the biblical themes would speak to him. Mom, although you didn't sell your songs, thousands of Jewish children grew up singing these songs, and I bet a lot of them have passed them on to their children. My family and I continue to sing your songs at our Pesach Seder. We sing your song Ushpizin in our sukkah, and of course we sing Chag Sameach. We sing the other songs you brought into our tradition, like singing Into the Sea by Lenny Solomon on the seventh day of Pesach. Mom, we will continue to sing your songs, and that part of you will stay alive with us. Mom, you lived nearly 87 years. You were just 2 months away from your 87th birthday on June 25th. It would take forever to sum up in words all that you were and all that you did during this time. So I think I want to sum it up with the word love. For the past few months, Dad has been watching a video of you a few times a day, every day, singing a song you composed called Ahava, What is Love? You were singing this at Denny Rosen and Kevin Kirschenbaum's wedding 37 years ago. When they came around to all the tables to ask everyone to say something, you dedicated this song. In the song, you ask the question, what is love? And you give some answers. One of the answers you give in your song is, it's reminiscing, it's joy and sorrow, and sometimes it is tears. Mom, your love and dedication to Dad, to your children and your grandchildren, has been felt by all of us. We say goodbye to you in ha'ava, as we reminisce and share memories that celebrate the joy of your life, although we are also in sorrow and in tears. We love you so much, Mom, and we will miss you very much. My niece, Tova, my sister Laurie's daughter, wrote some words, and I'm going to share those with you. This is from Tova. Our bubby was the quintessential bubby, a source of unconditional love, lots of treats, and a sparkle in her eyes that you knew was just for you. I remember noticing from a pretty young age that Bubby used to greet each of her grandchildren a little differently. Used to remember what each of us liked to eat, to do, to hear her play on the piano. Used to take genuine interest in each of us. When I would speak to Bubby, I knew she was really listening with rapt attention, really focusing to the best of her ability on what I was saying. She really cared about every detail of what was going on in my life, whether it was what I was learning in kindergarten or what I was doing in my latest career move. When you were with Bubby, you know you had her undivided attention, and you knew you were not alone anymore. Bubby loved each of her grandchildren just as they were. She kept her walls plastered with her photos and her piano table at school plastered with our drawings until she retired and we were well into our 20s. She made sure to be at all of our birthday ceremonies and events for as long as she could keep going to them. For some of us, she traveled all the way around the world, never complaining. Instead, making long layovers, part of an adventure, and bringing back stories about our cousins and the sights she and Zadie saw along the way. That devotion extended outward as we grew older, too. I can't speak for my cousins here, but at least for me, I met Kenny when we were 15, and once we started dating, Bubby accepted him as what she called the shamash on her menorah. We were 8 granddaughters, and he was the grandson-in-law, and she treated him like he was one of us right away. When I had my own children, she brought out toys she had saved through 3 generations of kids and delighted in watching them play as if they were their own. They were her own. And Bubby's love for people and for life didn't ever stop at our family. I cannot ever recall Bubby saying an unkind word about anyone. Bubby was so devoted to her students at so many different schools, remembered who many of them were, even when she only taught music and even after her memory started to falter, and she was an active member of the community. Bubby also taught me the power of a song. Bubby was always singing something, or regularly sitting down at the piano to play, or bringing out song sheets at holiday gatherings. Some of those songs felt a little corny, but they would mark for me the holidays and bring all of us together as we sang in unison. Bubby also taught me a love for Israel. She would tell me excitedly about my Aunt Cindy in Israel and show us pictures. I remember one year she brought us all a board game about Aliyah for Hanukkah. We never played it, but I definitely got the message. When my mom called to tell me the news that Bubby was hanging on to life, Yom HaZikaron was setting into Yom HaTzmaut, and at that very moment in Israel, and I had this gut feeling, Bubby's not going to leave us until Yom HaTzmaut is over, especially not since it's 75 years this year. Bubby, I know your soul was celebrating with us this year, and I know you hung in there for the country you loved, and you celebrated with us one last time. Bubby, I'm so grateful for the time we had together. I might not be able to hold your hand anymore, but I know you're still here, living on in all of us. We'll carry you with us as we teach our children your hamantashed recipes, your songs, and your love for people in life. We love you, Bubby.
Ash.
Thank you everybody for coming. Dear Bobby, I grew up without a grandma. I named after one, and I barely remember the other. It always was missing for me when kids around speak about their savta. I have a hole in my heart. I will never have memories like that. But now I have, because of you. You told me in any chance that it's your pleasure and your honor to be my savta. You fill that empty hole with your shining smile and honest love. Your theatralic mode and all those old stories and songs. It's an honor and pleasure for me to be your grandchildren forever. Bobby, we love you so much. And memories, the hugs, and all the good. And we have set you free, and holding your hands at the same time to continue in your holy journey. I finish in your way to say goodbye, till the next time. Let it out. Thank you very much.
Now, we'll have Rabbi Kline will be speaking through the.
I will be speaking.
Oh, you'll be speaking. Okay.
I lost my. 1 second. Okay. So I choose. Can you hear me? I choose to speak to Bobby in present tense because she's here with us right now. And it's very, very, very strange to speak like in past. So everybody already spoke how Bobby loved music and how it was part of her life. And it's part of my life as well. I love to sing. I don't have such a nice voice like Bobby and like other sisters, but I like my voice. It has what to say. And Bobby liked when I sang also. And that was part of her essence. And something that we say a lot, we have a Jewish center in India, and something that we say a lot to people there is that you should always have a tune inside. Rabbi Nachman said that in order to conquer the physical world and all the things that we have here that basically disconnect us from our spirituality, is that we always need to have a nigun inside our heart. And Bobby, you always had a nigun in your heart, always. I don't remember ever meeting Bobby without her singing something. And we even have so many videos, Baruch Hashem, of Bobby singing to Odeh. And Odeh is our young child, our oldest child for now. And Baruch Hashem, we had the honor and the privilege of her singing her songs as well. Because Bobby's songs weren't only songs. They were the way of her connecting to Hashem. They were a way of her of being in a spiritual connection to the higher essence of what we all are here for. And that is something that, if you see Bobby, she was a simple woman. Her emunah was simple, was tamim. She didn't know as much as maybe some of us today know, and we have more the ability to study, and she didn't know maybe as much, but she knew a lot because of a pure connection that she had, and mostly it was because of her music. Bobby, you went through so much, and in the past 4 years or so, Ash and I were so lucky to be spent so much time with you and Zaidi. And we got to experience something that I never thought I would, was to experience your life here in America and not you visiting us in Israel. And actually being in your home and seeing you go eat your bagels and Emmas and seeing you watch your weird British movies and seeing you do your puzzles that you and Zaidi like, and eat your bagels and orange juice on the paper, and all these weird things, honestly weird, but they were part of you. And Baruch Hashem, we had the honor and the privilege to make your kitchen kosher for Pesach a few times. And one time I said to Bobby, this is ridiculous. Your house looks like what's it called? Spaceship. And then she said, I know, I don't even know why we do it. The Rabbi says we need to, so we have a spaceship for Pesach. And that was something that was your emunah tmima. I don't have that emunah tmima so much. I need to understand what I'm doing. I need to rebel a little bit more. But Bobby, you teach us so much, and that is something that I'm taking to teach my children, Bezrat Hashem. The beauty that you had with the connection to Hashem, it's something that I want as well. And Baruch Hashem, even at Beit Shalev, at our Jewish center, we were able to sing some of your songs. So imagine how many souls you're touching all over the world, even in India. And I just want to wish us all and everybody that came, and I want to wish you that Bezrat Hashem and Neshama will have an amazing journey up there, and that you'll be with us singing your songs. And even when you go up, you'll be singing your niguns. And that I'll be able to always have your nigunim in my heart and with my children and with my family. And I love you very, very much, Bobby. Now my sister sent me something to read. My sister Ami. I didn't read it yet, so we're gonna read it together. Okay. Dear friends and family, you're all here today because of an amazing and remarkable person, my Bobby. Some of you probably know that Bobby was a music teacher, composer, and singer with a beautiful voice. But for me, her laugh was always the best music to me. As a kid, I would always try to be funny with her, just to be here to hear her laugh. It was the best music to me. This Shabbat, I was thinking about you, Bobby. And I had this strong memory in my mind of your grateful sigh after getting a compliment or experiencing something special. I am so grateful, you would say countless times. And it was one of the many things that you have taught us. You have taught me and us. I try every day to take with me and be grateful. And I am grateful for the time we had together. Grateful for knowing you, laughing with you, singing with you, and just having you as my Bobby. Bobby, you are so strong physically and mentally. You are so filled with so much love, and I love you, and I was so lucky to share with you. I am so proud of being yours and Zadie's granddaughter. I am so proud of being a part of you and will always be a part of me. I miss you and I love you so much, Ami. Now, my father is going to speak.
Thank you. It's very difficult to be so far away from you all. Thankful for technology that makes it a bit closer. So thank you for this opportunity to pay my respects to Mom. And when Cindy and I got married, so I turned to Shelly and Sanford and I said, I'll be calling you Mom and Dad. That's what feels natural. And that's what I've done. And I feel our connection is a connection of the son to his parents. And I have to thank you, Mom and Dad, for the great gift that I received. And that was your daughter. Without coordinating anything with Cindy, what I thought of immediately, Mom, was your strong Zionism. I always connected to that, besides the fact that I was an Aliyah Shaliach, but it's certainly such a strong part of my ideology and Weltanschauung, my world outlook. And I want to share a story with all of you. It says quite a lot about Mom. she went out to an evening with friends. It was a meal, if I recall correctly. Perhaps Dad could give more details. And during the course of the meal, with close friends, some of them started talking badly about Israel and pointing out the negative sides of our beautiful country. Basically committing the sin of the spies. And Mom turned to them and she said, I won't have any of this. If you continue talking badly about Israel, I'm leaving. Well, and they didn't take her seriously enough. And Mom got up and left. She was not going to be there while people were talking badly about Israel. That love for Zion filtered down Mom to the next generations. 2 daughters living in Israel. Your 3rd daughter with property in Israel coming as often as she can. You have 6 Israeli granddaughters in Israel. 5 Israeli great-grandchildren. And your grandchildren that are in America also have that love for Zion. That education, that love is something that I admire you for. And I always remember it. The Shabbat just passed. Me, Hallel, and Ami at home. We commemorated you by singing your songs. We took them off the bookshelf. We tried our best. I'm sure if you were with us, you would have corrected us. Thank you for the merit of being like your son. May you be a melitz yosher, an advocate for us upon high. We'll all miss you. Tilchi l'shalom. Go in peace. Your memory will be for a blessing.
Shelly Schwartz, as was mentioned, was born in 1936 to Albert and Stella Eisenberg Levine, to Avram and Esther Leah. And she was one of many siblings. It was Joel and Anna Marie, Noreen and Joel Shalom, Gerald Shalom and Harriet, Marcia, and Eileen and Michael Groner. She was a pioneer in her Jewish education. In those days, it wasn't as prevalent as it is today to be sent to Jewish day school. She went to Jewish school for kindergarten, for parochial school, to the Chicago Jewish Academy, and then she was educated as a teacher in the Sabin Teachers College, which has become Northeastern Illinois University. And she also attended 1 year at the University of Illinois in Chicago, at Navy Pier. She met Sanford a year before their marriage while he was finishing up school, and she was a teacher in the Chicago Public Schools, a music teacher. And it's interesting, there was an article about the two of them. They met in the library. And the Legler Library, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And there was actually an article called the Legler Lovebirds about the two of them during their courtship and eventual marriage. As mentioned, she was a music teacher. She taught so many children, including all three of my children, had her as music teacher. And in addition to that, she was also, she sold world books for a number of years, but she also was employed by the Jewish Mama singing telegrams. And she used to go bring chicken soup, Jewish kosher soup, to people. And she was a victim of religious discrimination in that one time a woman wanted her to sing during Shavuot, and she said, this is 22 years ago, and she said, nothing doing, I'm not going to do that. And the owner called her again and said, you have to do this. And she said, I'm not going to do this. And the woman who wanted her to sing said, there's no such holiday. And Shelly Hashem says, there is such a holiday. It's giving you the Torah, and I will not sing. And she was, that was it for her career as a singing mama. But it showed her resolve and her resiliency that she was willing to stand up to others and not be accepting of discrimination. She was involved in many, many different organizations. Of course, Amit, Hadas, she was honored by Skokie Central, and again, many, many other organizations. She was an active songwriter. She was even offered money for one of her songs by Chess Records on Chicago's South Side. That was a rhythm and blues. Yep. And yes, and she turned it down, and but it was very interesting. Along with Sanford, they ushered a different plays for over 40 years all across the Chicago area, and enjoyed that very much. As was mentioned, I think in 2005, they were going to the Tabun in Chicago when they were hit by a car, and both her and Sanford were in the hospital for a while. She ended up at the Lieberman for 47 days, and she entertained there as well. Sanford used to join her for Shabbat, and people were so happy to have her there, inspiring them and enabling them to really rehabilitate with a very, very special feeling. Her children, Laurie Gates, Lisa Weiser, and Cindy and Rabbi Dorron Kline. To her grandchildren, Tova and Kenny Dvorin, Rivka and Ephraim Schnaidman, to Hadas Kline, to Aviva and Ari Forman, to Maayan and Ish, we've just heard from, to Shaked and Hillel Biton, to Ami Kline and to Hallel Kline, and her great-grandchildren, Yael, Tikva, Yossi, Tani, Nava, Shmulie, Zahava, Shalev, Asif, Odeh, and Shua, and to her loving siblings, Marcia and Eileen, as mentioned, and she was a loving aunt and cousin to so very many. Shelly was also a survivor of cancer. People probably don't know that, but she was very resilient, never let anything slow her down. She loved to bake. Sanford told me that in their first apartment, 2.5 room apartment, and she baked Sanford gefilte fish. And Sanford said, Shelly, life is too short. Don't make fish, bake. And she used to bake the best, according to Sanford. I never had them, but I'm sure he's correct. She used to bake the best hamantashen, and Sanford, everybody's nodding, Sanford used to go to North Shore Bakery to get the mun for her to be able to bake her hamantashen. And as we heard, she liked to bake for Pesach as well, and share it with all of her children. In terms of my personal reflections, I already mentioned that our three children loved her and enjoyed her music. She loved to go to shul. She loved to be a machnis oreach. She used to even have people over for mini Shabbatons on Friday night. She used to, when the Shavuot Mishmar was too late, she used to have a Mishmar in her home on the night of Shavuot. And at Keser Marav, she was very, very active. She was a pioneer in that she tried to teach people to incorporate those life experiences to link them to the past as well as to the future. So, for example, she wanted a Tu B'Shvat Seder, so she did. We had Dr. Chagai Amir was there, and she convinced him and cajoled him to making a full Seder, and he did, and people loved it. She also, on her first Shabbat in Keser Marav and Skokie, she said, the chalt is good, the Rebbitzins chalt is delicious, but on Parshas Toldos, I think when Esav sold his birthright for lentil soup, so that week we didn't make the chalt, we made a lentil soup so that everybody could link to that which was in the Toratenu HaKadoshah and to link that and bring that forward. She also always kept a close connection to her friends from the Chicago Jewish Academy and elsewhere. I remember when Rabbi Well spoke at the 50th, the yard site of my brother, how she was talking to Rabbi Well and Donnie. She used to call him Donnie. Forgive me, I would never call Rabbi Well Donnie, but she had that connection and closeness with all of her friends. She was passionate about Torah. She was passionate about Israel. She was passionate about the Jewish people, about Jewish holidays, about her love for children and teaching, and she was really indefatigable. This coming week, Torah's portion is the Torah portion of Emor. Now, Emor discusses, of course, the additional prohibitions or sanctifications for the Kohanim, for the priestly caste, and laws for the Kohen Gadol, and then it goes into the Jewish holidays. And I think it's very, very fitting that this coming week Sedra, this is the Sedra that Shelly gave her soul up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because she understood the idea of Kedusha. Now the Rambam in the Sefer Mitzvos and Mitzvah Lamed Zayin, he discusses that a Kohen who does not want to violate their kahuna is obligated to do so. We don't let the Kohen off, that there's an obligation, a duty to sit shiva for those 6 close relatives. Now this didn't apply to the Kohen Gadol, because the Kohen Gadol was always Lifnei Hashem. The Kohen Gadol was always before the Almighty. In many respects, Shelly, in her own way, was always before the Almighty. She was always in love of Torah, love of the Jewish people, love of Jewish holidays, and she made certain that that love was transmitted and promulgated and made a part of all of those whose lives she touched. The Medrash Tanchuma says, why was the custom that the servants of the king should never go to funerals, so that the king shouldn't be made sad. And in many respects, Shelly had that same embrace with her music, through her nigunim, that she was able to inspire other people so that they should be happy. And as we know, Eina Shechina Shruya, Ela Mitoch Simcha, the divine presence only rests on people through joy and through happiness. And this is her enduring legacy, and one that we have to incorporate into our own lives. We hope and we pray that Shelly will be, as mentioned, will be a good Tibeter for the entire mishpacha, that she will continue to inspire long after her passing, and that we will, Imut Hashem, be able to emulate her and to be inspired by her until the ultimate redemption may it speedily take place. May your soul be bound up in the bonds of eternal life. This time we ask everybody to please rise as we say Kel Meli Rachamim. El Meli Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamtzei Menachon Achona Taras Kanfei Ashchina, Ma'alos Kedoshim Torim, Gezora Kier Masimus Nishmas, from Abela Bas Avram Shalchal Yalama, Bavur Shmish Pachta Nov Nitztaka, Paras Karas Nishmasa, Beganeden Temenu Chasa, Lachein Barachamim Yasti Rebbe Says Pavli Yalamim, Bitrachem is Nishmasa Noyun Achalasa, Tnor Pesham Mishkava, Venomar Amen. Please be seated.
The interment will take place at Shalom Memorial Park in Arlington Heights. For those of you joining the procession, we'll make sure that we get an orange funeral sticker for your front windshield, as well as a magnetic flag for the top of your vehicle. And please use your bright headlights at all times in the procession, as well as your emergency flashers. The Shiva will be observed at Lisa Weiser's residence in Evanston, 3901 Lyons Street, today from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., and 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., and then on Friday from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. All this information is listed in the service folder you received on your way in. If you did not receive one, you can please obtain one on your way out. And for those of you viewing online, that information is also on our website. The following people have been selected as pallbearers. As I call your name, if you'll please step forward. Dr. Michael Groner, Mr. Ashrael Ashush, Dr. Gary Kirschenbaum, and Dr. Avi Groner. I'll ask at this time if everyone please rise as we escort the casket from the chapel.